Hello, I'm Chris the Zelda Collector, and welcome back to Gossip Stones with Simon Locke.
Hello.
Yeah, this is a series I'm doing where we have a guest on, and we are doing 4 parts. In part 1, we get to know Simon, which I've already recorded, so if you haven't seen it yet, go back and watch that one. Part 2, which we're doing now, is 12 Zelda related questions, where we get to know what Simon thinks about the Zelda franchise by asking him some fun, some serious questions. And then we have part 3 where we talk about Simon's favourite Zelda game, and part 4 where we have a topic of Simon's choice. So yeah, let's just jump straight into it, Simon.
Okay.
Are you prepared for these 12
I am,
Zelda
yes.
questions?
Go for it.
Right, we shall just jump straight into it then. And question 1, if you can pick your best Link, Zelda and Ganon out of any game of the whole franchise, which are your best 3?
It's going to be the same answer for both of them. For art style,
Yes.
so it's supporting artwork, not necessarily in game, but the supporting artwork for Twilight Princess and Twilight Princess HD.
Yes.
That's my favourite sort of incarnation of them from like an artwork perspective. In game, it's going to have to be Hyrule Warriors, which I can't even pronounce properly without getting my tongue twisted. Just because that sort of builds on that. They are very similar to the Twilight HD versions, but I'd say better. Whether you count it as a proper Zelda game or not, it's up for debate. I do.
I do. I don't see why not. It's Zelda. It's in the franchise, so it's been endorsed by Nintendo, so it's basically a Zelda game.
I think they've catered to the fans very well in that game, and there is no necessarily, I'd say, silly version or one that would annoy you necessarily. They're all kind of like the best of what they ever were throughout the franchise, in my opinion. And they've catered to the fans of old and the fans new with various costumes and things. And they're all very consistent and very true to the source material. So that would be my pick as the best versions, because you can go whichever way you like with each character.
Yeah.
And you utterly destroy anyone. Doesn't matter if you're playing as Princess Zelda or Link or Ganon or is it Sheik, Zelda's alter ego?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can absolutely annihilate as many things as you like, and it's very satisfying to play. Yeah. And they even tie in a storyline as well.
I must admit, I thought about this question myself as I was like written them down. And obviously I had a different answer for Ganon myself, but actually Ganon out of Hyrule Warriors, he is absolutely amazing. It's probably my favourite levels in that game when you play as Ganon and you just get to destroy everyone.
It's very satisfying.
Yeah.
For a combo button masher with some tactics involved, it is very satisfying.
The thing is, it's a lot more tactical than you think, because it's not just button mashing. Yeah, you have your fun, but you've also got to... it's like a babysitting game, isn't it?
Yeah, it can be at points.
You've got to keep an eye on everyone.
Yeah. If you've progressed in the wrong sort of directional path in the game, it'll hand it back to you and say, try again.
Like, on the same token, have you got a worst? I
think we were doing that later on, but worst version, I'd probably say of Link is probably Ocarina of Time, just because it takes so long before you can get to a character that you can like. I can't stand him when he's a child, leaning over with the shield and stuff. It's not working for me. You know, from the very first game you started off and you picked up your weapon, and then you go off and you're on your own and you're self-sufficient. In Ocarina of Time, it just takes so long before you can get to a point where you can do everything. You know, it just keeps saying, you know, you're a child, you can't do this yet. You know, NPCs are talking down to you and stuff. There was none of that in the first game. It's just crack on. Even Link to the Past, it's once you got your sword and shield, that was it. You know, you were the hero. You know, everyone else just treated you pretty much like an equal. But Ocarina of Time, it's like, just wait until you go through the thing. Yeah, you have to grow up before you can play the game. It's like, no, I'm not sinking that number of hours into it. No thanks. So
you've opened my eyes.
Yeah. Same with Zelda, actually. she's quite strong, sort of female character in the previous games, and in Ocarina of Time, she just seems, I don't know, somewhat helpless the way they portray her.
Well, it is because the account Sheik as Zelda in that game. Why is Sheik a variation of Zelda or is she not?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of she's the damsel right at the end. I love how she's Sheik all the way through, and at the end she suddenly becomes this damsel in distress when she gets kidnapped. As Zelda, doesn't she?
Yeah, it didn't
she
make
puts
a lot
his stress
of sense.
on and then turns useless.
Yeah, I don't get it. It didn't make any sense to me. And the we can't do hair in this game, so we're just going to give you a hat. That didn't work for me either. It's like I could see that a mile off. And Ganon, I mean, what's with the nose? It's supposed to be the dark elf, but not Pinocchio.
Yeah. Right, you've just pretty much tore apart everyone's favourite Zelda.
Sorry.
There, Simon.
Sorry, I'm just being honest.
Right, well, moving on to question 2. See what else you can do. What is your best version of your overworld map? Your best map in a game? So it could be either any version of Hyrule, or it could be Termina from Majora's Mask, or it could be just any pretty much world from a Zelda game.
I'd say Link to the Past.
Link to the Past.
Because the overworld and map is just unparalleled.
Yeah.
They've incorporated everything that the previous games were attempting and expanded on it. So you've got hidden features. There is the map that aren't necessarily part of the quest line to progress. That are completely optional. Things you can do. They took the overworld map from the first game and just improved upon it. And even incorporated some of the stuff you get in Zelda 2 overworld map as well. Yeah. It just seems like it progressed into that, and they did that very well. There's also more familiar RPG elements, so there are some games that came before Legend of Zelda. Link to the Past, I mean. And they've sort of brought those into it. So, for example, the very first Final Fantasy games, where you got to sort of walk around the world map, encounter towns and things, they've brought that into it. And the way it's kind of the way you interact with NPCs as well, that changed significantly from the first 2 games into actual people that are walking around in the same world you're in.
Yeah.
You don't enter a town and then you talk to them. They are actually part of the world you're exploring.
Yeah.
And the way that you can just lead into the dungeons from doorways and things, which carries on from what the first game tried to do. So it's part of the map that you're exploring, you're fighting, but also here's another area that's presented to you.
Yes.
And then the really clever use of reusing the entire map, but making it acceptable.
Yes.
Where they did it, so the Dark World. If any other game had just said, right, here's the exact same map you had before, but we're going to change the colours.
Yeah.
I'd say no.
Well, it's just enough differences to make them.
Yeah.
The way they interact with each other and all, I think it just blows you away. The stuff you have to do on one map to get to the other. They did it really well.
You can tell it's just a way of doubling up on content.
Oh yeah.
But because they incorporated it so well into a plausible plot, it's like, yeah, okay, fine, I'll go through this now. Wow, I didn't expect this, because it just hits you, doesn't it, like a ton of bricks when you suddenly realise that there's another. Because as far as I was concerned, that was it, game done, and then oh no, hang on.
Oh yeah, the realisation. It's
yeah, and it's bigger too. There's more stuff to do in that world with more puzzles and things that make no sense. More stuff that you actually need to think about how to get through from one bit to another. Whereas it's almost linear to a point in the normal overworld, and then you get to the Dark World, it's like, oh no, this is actually hard now. This is actually required. Maybe even purchasing a strategy guide, or ringing. I suppose at the time, if you were so inclined, ringing the Nintendo helpline, go help. You can see where they got their money from that.
Yeah, why is it? There's some places on the map that you can only access from Light World, isn't there? So in the Dark World and stuff like that. So
yeah, they did tie it in quite nicely. And other games that have recycled content at that scale, I can't think of one that's done it so well.
Yeah, none. So it's the greatest game of all time, Simon.
Yeah. I don't know about the greatest game, but it's certainly one of the best I suppose would you class it as an action RPG Zelda? I don't know, but whatever genre Zelda fits into, it is one of the best at doing what it does.
It certainly is. Right, so on the reverse of that, what is the worst overworld map you can think of in a Zelda game?
I have a guess.
Oh, Zelda 2?
No.
Oh,
I can tolerate that. There's variety.
That.
There's variety in that. Even if I'm dying every 5 minutes, there's variety in it. It's Ocarina of Time's bowl. Or fruit bowl.
I should have known. Why do you hear that? I can see how this is going to go.
I felt cheated. They got that lovely intro animation. You're riding a Epona. All looks very pretty and picturesque. There's a waterfall and everything. Is that in the game?
Yeah. What, the waterfall?
The entire intro sequence, is that in the game?
I'm not sure. Well, it must be. They must have the waterfall. Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure if it is or isn't, but I do know that the majestic running across the hillside with Epona is not what you see. All you see is Link's butt and then Epona's butt, and it's going along about 20 frames a second, and then there's a day and night cycle every 2 minutes. So and everything's at the very edge of the fruit bowl as well for you to get to. So you've got to travel all the way across to the other end of the fruit bowl and then all the way back again to the other end of the fruit bowl. So it doesn't do anything for me.
Oh, Simon, what you doing to me? As I said again, you're ripping apart people's favourite game, but you make sense. You're making sense. It is. I must admit, I'll agree for that. The Hyrule Field is basically just one giant corridor, isn't it, with doors coming off.
It's a way of extending the game's life, yeah. And it does it. Obviously, I think they had bigger plans than what they implemented, and they just had to go. We can't do it.
Yeah, because don't get us wrong. The road up to Zoro's Domain and even the road up to Death Mountain, and they're good, interesting. But Hyrule Field is a lot of emptiness, isn't it? Yeah. Whereas
the dungeons are fine. The bosses are fine. Yeah. I've got no issue with that. It's just the slog.
The world map itself.
Yeah, I've get there. Once you've done it once, you never want to do it again. Yeah. It is honestly like if they had a teleportation feature, they should have put it in the game just so no one had to do it again. But it seems like someone wanted to make use of Epona, and they just had to have some excuse to ride for a field at 15-20 frames a second. So, yeah.
Right, well, moving on to question 3, which is about Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
Right. In Ocarina of Time, Link has iron boots.
Yes.
When he equips his iron boots, he sinks to the ground and underwater.
Yes.
But when he takes his boots off, but he's still on his person, he puts them in his backpack, he can float. Explain the logic behind that, Simon.
I'm going to leave this to Legend of Zelda the Animated Series, which covers it quite well if you've ever watched an episode of that recently. The items shrink, and they come out of a pouch that they have.
Alright, this is true, is it?
Yeah, if you watch it, you'll see that they had to tackle this problem for the actual cartoon. It's like, how can we have so many items, and we can't just pull them out of nowhere? So the items are little tiny representations of themselves, and they expand as they go to use them, and then they become full size, and they make use of it. So I assume that is about as canon as it's going to get to explain that.
Well, that has to be canon, doesn't it? I've never heard that before, Simon. I'll have to look into that, because that there would be some... Would be amazing.
They don't do it very often. I think when I had a quick look for a couple of episodes, I think they only did it once or twice that I spotted. And it's usually one of them has something, a little small crystal or some representation that becomes the item they need, almost magically. So how that works, I don't know, but I presume once they've got it in their pouch or backpack, it doesn't have any physical properties that would, cause them to drown.
So basically, a question I thought will stumble a lot of people and try and get some answer out of. You've just made canon on the very first episode, so if anyone watches this back, they can just say, same as Simon said. You're too good, Chris, Simon, aren't you? You're too good.
You've managed to get a reference to the cartoon.
You did. You're too good for this. Right, well, come on to question 4. Seems to just smash that one. Right. What is your best item out of all the Zelda games?
Your first sword.
Your first sword.
In any of the games, your first sword is the best time, because until then, you are absolutely up to your neck in trouble. And then once you've got your first weapon, you can actually defend yourself. So that was my answer to that. Like the first Legend of Zelda, map times I was running around without picking it up, getting killed by things shooting rocks at me or whatever it was, those little octopus-looking things.
Yeah.
Walk into the cave, get your first sword. Right. Getting revenge.
Something.
Yeah, I'm getting revenge on you lot. So obviously died a few times once to get the hang of the sword, but still. And then, of course, you get the famous phrase, "It's dangerous to go long, take this." Yeah, yes. No kidding. Once you've encountered that once, when you come to the... Exactly. Once you've encountered that once, you know, right, my first objective, it's a Zelda game. I need a weapon. I need a sword. Give me my sword, and I can actually survive this wilderness. And the same in Link to the Past, you have your intro storyline, don't you? And then you get given your first sword and shield, and that's, you know, you're in business. So, right, I can actually play the game now. It's like almost like the symbolism for the start of the game.
Yeah.
So it
is a good moment where you're looking around and you don't know where you're going, into raining, and all of a sudden you find your way through the hole outside the castle. Then you get given a sword and shield, and the game just opens up. Like you said there, you have a sword and shield, and we've started now. Let's go and do something. Yeah,
even in the latest Breath of the Wild, you're nothing really until you get a stick to take. Yeah, a tree branch. He's like, no, it's not doing it. And then you get your first weapon, which is either the axe or the sword. And then it's like,
you get the axe out off the old man, don't you?
Yeah. You get your first weapon, and then later you get your first sword that actually does proper damage instead of, you know, you hit mobs a few times and then it breaks. So your first sword.
Right, nice answer. And again, on the flip coin of that, what is the worst item you can think of in a Zelda game?
The boomerang.
The boomerang, really?
The boomerang. Yeah, I have gone through Phantom Hourglass. I've gone through the first Legend of Zelda game, which I believe had it, if I recall. And that thing, it's like every time you use it, it stops short of hitting the actual thing I was actually intending to. It kind of suggests that you can fire it off at different angles, but then Nintendo give you a plus or a cross as a D-pad to make use of that with. The most unfriendly thing for multi-directional input to actually make use of that tool. So you find yourself lobbing it one way and running up the screen, hoping it's going to come diagonally back to you and hit the thing you actually want. So, yeah, boomerang.
Boomerang.
Oh, and don't get me started on that stylus-based boomerang thing in Phantom Hourglass. I mean, that was just done. It's like, we need to implement stylus features in this game. It's like, how can we annoy people? Oh, we annoy people with the boomerang before. Let's put two and two together and make it the most annoying thing in the entire game, other than the temple. That and Navi. So yeah. Navi and the boomerang.
I do like the boomerang in the 2D games, like the first Zelda and Link to the Past. But when you get to the 3D Zelda, I can't get away from the whole locking on and throwing it and
yeah.
But I do in Link to the Past. I love the boomerang. I do, especially when you upgrade it, and you can pretty much go the length of the screen once you upgrade it to the magic boomerang.
So Breath of the Wild, they make it so that the actual ones are actual boomerangs rather than those sickle things that kind of operate like a boomerang. They make it two-hander, so you've got no shield. So it's instantly annoying because it's a thing you throw that's a two-hander that sometimes comes back to you, sometimes doesn't. Yeah.
I know it's a boomerang, you got to catch it, but you actually got to click the button to catch it as it comes back and all. I've never caught one yet. I've never tried one that many times, but I've never caught a boomerang yet when it comes back to you.
The only time I've actually managed to catch one is actually when I was intending to throw it away. So I actually lobbed it because I wanted to pick up another weapon, and it just happened to come back to me as I'm pressing the button. And it's like, of all the times, this is the weapon I didn't want to have.
You picked up a boomerang, really? No, I was meant to pick up a sword.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that and Navi the fairy. So yeah.
Well, we'll come on to Navi later.
So those two things together, if they ever made a Navi boomerang, that would be like the worst thing ever. Something that doesn't come back to you other than when you didn't want it to, and then says, "Hey, listen."
Hey, listen. Yeah. Right then, moving on to question 5. What is your best location in any game? What I mean by that is, for me, it's when you're walking Link to the Past and you find a massive sword, that whole clearing of trees.
Okay.
Any location in the game?
As impressive as that is, and as impressive as the Breath of the Wild version of that is, I'm actually I prefer like exploring the cold snowy areas in Breath of the Wild, so all the mountains up there.
Yes.
Just because it's so different.
Is it Hebra? Up in Hebra Peak? That area?
Yeah, especially like really far north, where you've got that labyrinth, and you've got all those like large tundras.
Is that Lomri Labyrinth? Is that one called?
Yeah, I think so. So that area, just because I don't think I've ever seen that before in a Zelda game. You know, proper like vast wilderness of snow. Yeah. So not in a 3D one that I can think of.
No, in Twilight Princess, you had like a snowy area.
Not like this,
but
though.
No, but I'm saying not like that. They had like a snowy peak up there, and you did like a skiing little time trial race, and you're in it. But there was nothing to that. What you're saying there, where it's just snow as far as you can see, and
you actually feel like you are pretty much on your own. You've been like dumped in the North Pole sort of thing, and you are trying to explore effectively, trying to find stuff that you don't know whether it's there or not. You're kind of on your own, unless you're obviously following a guide or something. So it was that was very memorable, and probably the first time in the game I've gone, wow, I actually feel like I've been left up to my own devices. There's no one else around here. You know, I'm actually exploring. I'm enjoying myself. There's stuff out here that wants to kill me. I don't know if it's there or not. I'll find that out later on. So it was. I'd say that was my best location.
I was up there and actually found. I don't know if I recorded it actually, because I was up blown away by it. There was an enemy that was frozen. I think it was a lizard four, or however you pronounce it. And there was another one stood in the ice. He actually had a fire rod trying to defrost the ice. It was amazing. I don't know if I did it. I'm sure I recorded it when I seen it, because I was blown away. It was literally, it was just one of them was frozen, a block of ice, and I was trying to defrost them. It was amazing. Just details like that in that game just blow me away.
Yeah,
it was incredible.
And the snow, it actually looks like snow.
Yeah.
They stopped short of allowing you to throw snowballs.
Yeah. Well, even the sound when you're walking on the snow.
Yeah.
I think it's
it sort of glistens.
Sound.
Yeah. So it just because it's so different, I think that's just really sort of impressed me. It's the first time in that game where I've suddenly just stopped and gone, wow, this is different. I like this. Whoever came up with this, it was fantastic the way they've done it. I've had snow in games before, but not like this. Didn't actually feel like I'm up to my knees, and it's not scripted, and it's not going to be there for a bit. I can go back to this anytime I want. It's not just like an hour prologue.
Yeah, it's like a level. It's not like a level in a game that you're going. Yeah, you can go back anytime you want and just get lost and explore for hours and just enjoy it. Yeah,
and complete freedom to do so as well.
Right. Well, you know what's coming next then? What's the worst?
Temple of the Ocean King in Phantom Hourglass. Just for the repetitiveness.
I'm going to say which time, the first time or the second time or the third
first
time?
First time's fine. Yeah. Second time it's wearing. Third time, why? Fourth, I think they go to fifth or sixth, I don't know. Can't remember how many times we went back there, but it all kind of blends into one long slog, to the point where you're running out of battery life on the DS by the time you're doing the last one, because you had to go through all the previous sections you've done before. And you can always remember like the first 2 or 3 without any form of prompting or mental thought. It's all muscle memory at that point. And then it gets to the bit in the middle like, this was a bit of a slog, this is a bit difficult, I can't remember how I got past this. So that whole thing just, and you can just tell that was because we've ran out of space on this cartridge to put new stuff. How can we string it along so we'll just keep playing? Yeah. If that was just one big thing in one go, that'd be fine. I wouldn't hate it, but just because you just have to keep coming back is just, I suppose that and any incarnation of Death Mountain, except for Breath of the Wild. where it actually lives up to its name. In the first one, for example, you've got is it the Lost Hills, where it keeps repeating when you go in different directions. The first time you get there, it's just no, I didn't want to be here. And not only do you go there once for level 5, but you come back for the final fight against Ganon as well. So that and Ocarina of Time's Death Mountain. No. I hate it. Once you're inside, it's fine, but just the whole outside part of it is it's the most laborious place. It's just it lives up to its name. and the amount of times you die getting there as well. For a first playthrough, at least, definitely. Once you get used to all the pitfalls and traps, not so bad, but yeah. There's always a rock that's going to kill you that you don't know about until it's happened once, and then you go, oh, yeah, that rock killed me. I've got to stay away from it this time.
Why do you hate Ocarina of Time so much?
I don't know. It's the first 3D Zelda game I played. So I don't know. I've been playing other 3D games around that time, so maybe that's why. I didn't understand why this was getting so much praise and other stuff was getting ignored, I guess. And also I thought it was so different from Link to the Past. I didn't understand how they were the same game other than both the characters called Link.
Right. Okay then, moving on to question 6.
Yes.
Tingle.
I can't think of a game that actually has it in it that I've played that I can recall, but I would say I think it's a method of them getting back at the fans for all the Peter Pan and Elf references to Link, and the especially in Ocarina of Time, you get the Children of the Forest or whatever the villages you start off in. I think that's it. I think it's their way of getting back at that stereotype by parodying their own art. Is my interpretation of it, at least. And I think it's just become an ongoing joke for them, and I think they get a kick out of it every time they get to include something with him in.
Well, it's not. He's actually really well known and popular in Japan. It's just outside of Japan where he actually gets a really bad reference. I mean, he's got 3 or 4 games over in Japan, and actually one of them received games, I think, but it's just over. Obviously in America he gets the most stick.
Yeah.
Because he is a strange character.
Yes.
Especially in Wind Waker and.
Yeah. And when you see someone dressing up as that to sell games at an event, you just know you're in a bad place with the franchise, don't you? So my interpretation is I think someone started that off as a joke, as a parody, and it's become canon, and it amuses whoever came up with it every time they can get it as an actual real thing in one of their games. And it must annoy the die-hard fans so much. It must really tick them off that's canon. So I think that's why they've done it. I think that was their way of getting back at some people who take it too seriously.
Well, nice answer. Right. Number 7. Do you have a favourite piece of music out of any Zelda game, Simon?
I'd say probably the music you get in Breath of the Wild when you're in a cold area. I think it's called the Fields Cold music. I'm not sure what its official name is. I had a quick look and I couldn't find it, but it's the just a few little sounds that it gets played. And then the moment you hear that song, right, straight into the inventory menu, put on your warm gear. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. Like if you're in the desert area and it gets nighttime, the moment you hear that music kick in with the little chimes and sort of keyboard noises, oh right, it's going to get cold very quickly. Put on the warm clothing, find a flame sword or whatever. So.
It's good for having music to it is like something's going to happen when the music. Like something I need to change something here. Yeah, it's good that way.
So
I was just looking on the soundtrack there to see if I could find the name of it, but I can't.
I think it's Field or Cold Field or something like that.
Yeah, we have Field there, Battlefield.
Might be just be part of the field music.
Yeah.
Maybe they split it up with different parts.
Yeah.
So that, and obviously the Mario Kart 8 metal version of the overworld theme they put in for the Hyrule Castle. I can't say the rule. Hyrule Castle track. So that was my favourite, being a metal fan. So yes, great appreciation for that.
Fantastic choice there, Sam.
I think they've got a bit of that in Hyrule Warriors. Guys, this is killing my tongue trying to say this. I think they've got a bit of it in there, but it's not done to the extent. You know, they properly milked it in the Mario Kart version of it.
Some really good music in Hyrule Warriors and all, don't they?
Yes, they do.
That music catches you off guard. No, you don't realise it until you're humming away and you're thinking, "Hang on, this is." And it pumps you. It does. It gets you. It does a good job of getting you into the game.
I did wonder how they were going to do that, because a lot of the previous Dynasty Warriors games, especially the spin-off ones, they're all quite heavily focused on metal-based soundtracks. You've got lots of guitaring kicking in. So I did wonder if that was going to be the case with Hyrule Warriors, and it turned out to be kind of a blend of both. They've sort of appealed to the source material, but also incorporated some of their own guitar work and stuff, and you could just tell us that's Dynasty Warriors there. Then other sections like, oh no, that's Legend of Zelda. Yeah. So I think they did quite a good job of that.
Yeah. Okay then, let's move on. We have, what's your biggest gripe? Your worst thing about the whole Zelda franchise? If it was the worst thing about the whole thing, what?
The Zelot fans, the fanatics that have to have a justification, explanation for every single thing in the game and just won't let it go. That's not you, by the way. That's the you go off looking for something about, say, I wonder what this item could be, and then someone will write 3 or 4 pages worth of speculation on why it exists, and then you see arguments following between someone who goes, that's not what it is, it's this, and it's just it's terrible. It really is. The infighting between fanatics over one reference and speculation is just crazy. That and the naming convention of the games, which makes no sense. How did you get from the first game, Legend of Zelda, Zelda 2, right, we're on to something good here, but then we call it Link to the Past? And then what was it? A Link Between Worlds? Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, just it's like, what happened to the number convention system? Like every other game series does at least some part of the way through, or they'll have a number game to kind of reference which order they got released in. So coming as a new person to it, it gets very difficult trying to work out which way around things go, especially with the re-releases.
Yeah.
Whacking HD on the end of it or whatever, but it comes out after the game that came after the thing you made a HD version of. It confuses the hell out of me sometimes. So, for example,
if you want to talk about Scarlet Sword, it's kind of a racing game, but it's the first game, like in the timeline, and yes, I can imagine it's confusing.
What was wrong with calling it the Origin of Zelda? If this, the first one's called the Legend, what was wrong with the Origin of? Something that made sense rather than have whatever they have. I think the only game they have released recently in recent memory that actually made sense was Link's crossbow training, because funny enough, it's Link with a crossbow, so it actually makes sense. Even Breath of the Wild, what the hell does that have to do with the actual game? Did they reference it anywhere in the game at all? I can't think of a reference to that at all in the entire
game. The whole game is the wild, Simon. You have to.
Yes, but they don't actually say it, do they? Link's crossbow training, it's self-explanatory. You have Link, you have a crossbow. Funnily enough, you're getting trained on how to use it. It makes sense. It ties in. Even Ocarina of Time, that did actually have some reference to the title in the game. Majora's Mask. I prefer a numbering sequence or something to show that one would follow the other. But
so what would you prefer? Like Legend of Zelda, it rains, you fall, you die. Would that be
Legend of Zelda, we've appeased all the fans this time, or we've tried to appease all the fans this time. We brought everything into it. Or Legend of Zelda, the compilation.
Right. I love it. Right, question number 9. Just the timeline. Do you have any thoughts on the timeline? Do you have anything you want to say about it? Does it bother you? Does it not? Does it pass you by?
If you're playing the games and just enjoying them, you don't really pay that much attention to it. You just play one game, move on to the next one. And other than the generation of the game, I don't think there's any prerequisite to play one after the other. No. I mean, even though Zelda 2 is called Zelda 2, you don't need to play the first one to play it. They're all very different in their own right. I would say, though, if you were trying to make sense of it, you will find it's an absolute mess.
Yeah.
And that it's a fool's errand trying to chronologically or sequentially work out a timeline from the game series, because there's so much overlap. There's so many different generational retellings of the source material that they have. The closest thing to it is probably Breath of the Wild, which sort of references other games throughout. Everything is a reference from something else, and they've just done that just to keep people happy, rather than deviate too much.
Why they do? The trouble is that Zelda have said themselves on countless times that they focus on gameplay before anything else. Then once they've got the gameplay sorted, then they build a story around it. Yeah. So the only game that they've gone in the story first was Skyward Sword, and that was because it was the origin of the whole series. But the thing is about the timeline, it's people like me, us fanatics, as you've just called us. We love.
Well, you're not a fanatic. You're not a fanatic.
I'm not a fanatic is that much. I'm just a big fan. But I do love reading the lore. I do love the whole lore and putting the games together and stuff like that. But again, it is. Like you said, if just a general player doesn't even have to worry about the timeline. Doesn't even have to think about it.
It's just each game is retelling of similar concepts.
Well, I used to like to think of it as each game was just a retelling of the same story.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was a legend, and legends change. So someone's saying it was, he had an ocarina and he travelled back and forward through time. He's like, no, that's not how it happened. He used to travel from a dark world to a light world. That's how the story was told. I used to always think of it as a retelling of the same story.
Yeah.
But
exactly. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, but then you had the whole timeline, and this game happens and that game happens, and
every game is a justification of the hardware platform it was built from. That is it, really, and they just retell the same types of concepts on different hardware and do the best they can with what they have.
Yeah.
If SNES could do 3D to the extent that they could make a playable game out of it, you'd have had a 3D game on the SNES, for example. Yeah. It just happened to be that's what they decided to go with to tell what they wanted to do in the game.
Yes.
So, that's why he's got purple hair.
Yeah. Right, okay, we'll move on to. I'm going to enjoy your answer here, Simon.
Okay.
How would you kill Navi?
Well, I think VG Cats covered the unanswered question as what Link does with fairies. Because they disappear, don't they?
Right.
So the only logical explanation there is he must eat them.
He must eat them?
Yeah, so when he's getting peckish and he's on low hearts and that heart container is not appearing, what is it a piece of heart or whatever, is just not appearing, starts looking at that fairy and gets mighty peckish. And then suddenly he's at full hearts. And even Nintendo themselves have kind of played into that. For example, with Breath of the Wild, you can add a fairy when you start cooking, and everyone must have thought, what is you start chucking ingredients into a pot, and one of the ingredients you can use as a fairy. It's like, is he going to do what we think he's going to do? Oh no, it flies off. But the thought was there. So I think that even themselves are aware that you kind of have to explain where these things are disappearing to when they're getting used. So that or super glue it to a boomerang.
But
Because it's never going to come. It won't come back. We've proven that in the Breath of the Wild. The boomerang doesn't come back unless you don't want to catch it. Yes, exactly.
Just duck. Right, your biggest positive about the Zelda franchise. What's the best thing about it?
I'd say it appeals to a wide audience. And because it's such a self-defining game, it doesn't pigeonhole itself like, say, a Final Fantasy game would. You know, people who enjoy their RPGs, Final Fantasy, people who enjoy racing games, for example, play racing games. This kind of covers so much because it's got puzzle elements, RPG elements, and exploration. I think it just appeals to everyone who just likes playing a damn good game.
Yeah.
Except for Ocarina of Time. Sorry. I'm sure people love that game. I can't get on with it.
I think some people do.
Yeah. Like most review magazines of the time held it as a perfect game. I'd actually enjoy what I've played of Majora's Mask. I actually enjoyed that. So I just don't think the first one appealed to me the way they went about it. I think it's inspired lots of games. I think you can play anything today that is has some form of item management system, some RPG elements, some action to it. You can trace a lot of things back to a Legend of Zelda game that came before it. I think it's inspired a lot of different types of games we play today. For example, Gav and I are playing Demon Souls on the PS3, and then I've moved on to Blood Souls on the PlayStation 4, and there's lots of things in those games that you wouldn't associate with the Legend of Zelda series, but they're there. There's items you can use on demand during fights and things, big bosses where you've got strategy and you kind of have to outlive and outsmart what you're dealing with. Encounters that seem absolutely impossible until you've put the hours into working out to get them through. All those sort of things trace back to, in my opinion, a Legend of Zelda game that came before it.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be a fan of the hardware or whatever platform it's on as well. Whatever latest things on offer, you can put one of those one of the Legend of Zelda games in and have a good time. Even for the spin-off ones like Hyrule Warriors, mash the control pad a few times, you're having a great time. May not last as long for some people, but initially you can always have a good time with those games, I think.
Yeah, well, the thing is that it gets the word overrated quite a bit, Zelda, sometimes, but I don't think it can be, because obviously you spoke about Gav there playing with Dark Souls. He's a friend of mine, and he's recently started playing through a lot of Zelda games himself, and he played through Ocarina of Time and he played through A Link to the Past, and both times I said to him afterwards, is it overrated? He says, why? They're just damn good games, and that's what he said. Yeah. He says you can hate it, and he says, and that's the thing. He says, yeah, people going about a lot of the time. He says, but he said to me, he can understand why I rave about Link to the Past so much. He says, don't get us wrong, it's not by any means his favourite game. He says, but it's just a damn good game. These solid games, and he is playing for a lot of Zelda games now, obviously because all I do is talk about them at work and stuff like that. But and like he says, it is, and that's why people like them, because they are just solid games.
It just takes one. Just takes one. You can play one of their games and not like it. You can play another one of their games and not like it. Then you'll just come across the one time they've got the right type of thing that you can get into, and then that's it. You're hooked.
Yeah.
Just needs the one thing. And usually, if you find one game in the series you like, there'll be another one somewhere in the series that you'll get just the same type of. I wouldn't say addiction, but you get really into it really easily. Then other ones you may not. You may find some of them you don't appeal. Some of them do. So, for example, I'm not a big fan of Ocarina of Time. I'm not a big fan of Skyward Sword. but I did really enjoy Twilight Princess. I did really enjoy the first Legend of Zelda game, despite the issues I had with that game, mostly from not knowing what the hell I was doing, not having an instruction manual.
Yeah.
You know, not finding out about potions until the last dungeon was probably the biggest mistake I ever made in that game. So it just takes one of their games in the series to get you hooked on it. And there's not a lot of other game series I can think of that has lasted as long that can do that.
Like, the thing I want to say is I often find that Zelda it's a gamer's game, because if you ask any man off the street who Mario is or who Sonic is, you know the universal. But Zelda, if you aren't a gamer, you don't seem to know who Zelda is, if that makes sense, or the game series, unless you're a gamer and you know what it is and you love it.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I'll speak to people about Zelda, or they'll ask, they'll find out how to do YouTube. They say, what do you do on YouTube? Oh, I stream Zelda games. What's Zelda? But if I say I stream Mario games, oh wow, I love Mario. I played Mario as a kid. It's a strange series, Zelda is. I do find it's a game's game.
There's a lot of storytelling, I think, in the series that helps it appeal to people that aren't necessarily into. They wouldn't necessarily be into playing games, for example, but because there's a narrative that encompasses everything you're doing. Even from the first game, there is a narrative. If you look through the instruction manual, you can see it's set up as a big story world that you're getting plopped into to start progressing through. So I think that if you play the right one in the series that sort of gets that hook into you to play, then off you go. You enjoy that game. It just takes one. The one that you can kind of that it just grabs you is the one that does it, and then off you go. Not Zelda 2 for you.
Zelda 2. I joked on stream, it's true. If I played that game years ago, I would not be the Zelda Collector. I'd be the Mario Collector or the Mega Man Collector, because I would not be into Zelda as much as I am.
I got conditioned into preferring it to Paperboy, so here you go.
Yeah. So that was the biggest positive. So let's move on to the last question, question 12, and it is: if Link was able to say one sentence, what would it be?
The obvious one is "Excuse me, princess," but I mean that was a given.
Yeah, well, that's been said. So if you could say, what would his profound sentence be? If he was given one sentence to say.
Have you saved twice?
Very good, Simon. Everyone knows you have to save twice. It's just you have to. Yeah. Yes. So that's it. That's 12 questions, all Zelda related. So we've got to know what your inner thoughts of the whole Zelda franchise there, Simon. Thank you so much for answering those.
You're welcome. I hope you got something out of my answers.
I did. Very insightful. I loved it. So yeah, and that is it for part 2, 12 questions. In part 3, we're going to be talking about Simon's favourite Zelda game out of the whole franchise. Do you want to tell everyone what it is, Simon? So
yeah, I've actually got 2. They're related, and I can explain why. And that will be Breath of the Wild and Hyrule Warriors.
Right, so we'll leave explanation for next episode. So if you want to join us for part 3, where we'll be discussing those games. Thank you all for joining us, and we shall see you all in the next video. Bye.
Bye.